Toys with moving, bobbing heads are believed to date back at least 150 years. The earliest known reference to a bobblehead toy is from the 1842 short story, The Overcoat by Nikolai Gogol. Ceramic figures of animals were later produced in Germany. These toys had heads which were connected by springs and were called knotters or bobbers. Making a bobblehead is easy using two basic hand-building methods in clay, the pinch pot and the flat slab. A lesson in balance is added as well. I'll begin my beastly bobblehead by making the body so that it has time to stiffen while I'm forming the head. To roll a good slab, clay thickness strips or stacked rulers will help. I'm going to work on a piece of canvas so that the clay won't stick to the table. So I'd like a slab about 1/4 inch, so I'm using the 1/4 inch thick clay thickness strips on either side of my rolling pin. So just roll out your slab. It's a good idea to roll across this way to align the clay particles. This is about 2 pounds of clay. I'm going to be firing this clay and painting it, so I'm using Blick's white talc-free clay so that the paints will show up well on the white clay body. After rolling the slab, I'm going to add texture and pattern using various pasta shapes. You'll be amazed once you start looking at how many different pasta shapes there are. I'm going to go over this slab with a texture roller to break it into sections, but this can be done with a ruler impressed into the clay or with a clay tool. And I've got a scrap of clay here, and I'm just going to test what these pasta shapes will do. So using the end of the pasta, I get almost a little daisy. The side is going to be different. Bow tie pastas make interesting patterns. You could even just use this edge here. So once I find something that I like with my stamps, I'm going to start patterning my slab with it. So once you have your slab patterned to the degree that you're satisfied with it, you can set it aside and let it stiffen a little bit. We're going to work on the head at this point. So I'm going to use a ball of clay that's about the size of a small orange. Making a pinch pot is a method of forming that goes way back and probably inspired the creation of the potter's wheel, because you just keep moving the clay around in a circle in your hands. So you're going to start by pushing my thumb right into the center of the ball of clay. It's important to start with a nice round ball so that your finished pot, or head in this case, will be more uniform. So at the bottom of the thumb, I'm just going to start pinching the clay between my thumb and fingers, and as I go around in a circle, I'm going to gradually move up the wall of the pot. We're just going to thin it out a little bit as we move up. Thin the walls. And I'm trying to pinch with the same amount of pressure so that the walls are going to be the same consistency. Now this little texture that ends up on the outside from my fingers can be smoothed out with a rib if you don't like that texture there. And at this point, depending on what kind of animal or beast you're making, you can add a nose, horns, a beak. I'm thinking about this little bear here, so I've got a little nose. I'm gonna slip and score. This is scoring. Scoring can be done with a needle tool, a fork, or a toothed rib. Got a little bit of slip, and I'm just going to attach that nose. A couple ears, we'll put those on in the same way. Now, any other facial details can be done with a tool, a needle tool, or a modeling tool. So as a final step, I'm going to make an indentation with my finger or a tool right inside the head at the very top center. This is going to be where the head will balance on the body later. So I'm going to set this aside and go back to my slab. In the classroom, allowing the slab to set up overnight under a layer of plastic is a good idea. You want the slab to be at the soft leather hard stage, which means still damp but not at all wet. And I'm going to just trim the edges of my slab loosely. It doesn't have to be precise because we'll be trimming some more here in a minute. So at this point, I'm going to form my slab, stand it up. I'm going to form it into a cone shape. This slab is still a little damp, so if you have a slab that's a little more set up, that would be advantageous. If your slab is rather stiff, you'll need to slip and score these seams. If it's soft like this one, I think I'm going to be able to just press these edges together and they'll stay. If you need a tool to get up into the middle, you can do that. There's usually a spot that's a little bit longer than you need it to be. I'm going to trim that off just so it sits level. Just soften any sharp edges at the bottom there. And I'm going over this quickly, so I know you're going to take much better care and make a much nicer, refined, finished piece. So at the top, as you see, all I'm doing is squishing this in to the center. We're going to form a little point, and most of this is not going to show because it's going to be under your head. Okay, so I'm just going to do a preliminary balance and see if this head will balance on my body. It's still kind of wet, so you might need to let it set up a little bit. That looks pretty good. If the head tends to fall to the front or back, maybe because this nose is a little bit heavy, we could balance it by adding a small piece of clay to the inside. Now if you look at this bird, it's got a nose that protrudes quite a bit, and we've had to balance that or counteract that with a little ball of clay right across from it on the inside. And just score and slip that just like you would anything else. And this is part of the fun, trying to achieve that balance with your bobblehead. Now we're going to just allow both pieces to dry completely in bisque fire. I like to finish the bobblehead using acrylic paint to get those bright colors, but glazes can be used just as well. Of course, air dry clay works too and can be painted when it's dry. For a free PDF of this lesson plan, visit dickblick.com and keyword search bobblehead.